If you're looking to get dinner done fast, sometimes it is best to prepare things early.
Yeah, and especially one of the things that you might want to prepare is enchiladas. It's always a winner, but you need that sauce to pack a punch here. Mariefiebach is the founder of Feed Your Family Tonight. Marie, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, Shane, it's always a joy to be here. Today, we're making enchilada sauce. And most people think enchilada sauce has tomatoes in it, you know, because it's red. This enchilada sauce actually doesn't. So it's a little bit unusual, but when you taste it, you're going to want to eat it with a spoon. It is that good. It starts off with 1/3 of a cup of chili powder. You get it in the jar at your grocery store. I often buy it in bulk, but 1/3 of a cup of chili powder. And then to that, you're gonna add 1/2 of a teaspoon of oregano and 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then this is a little interesting. I have 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. And the sugar is there to kind of counteract some of the bitterness. When you make this, that chili powder can get a little bit bitter, and I'm gonna add sugar and a touch of apple cider vinegar a little bit later, and that balances it out. And this is actually a cooked sauce. So I have 1/4 cup of avocado oil, and if you don't have avocado oil, you could use any type of vegetable oil. I don't usually recommend olive oil because it kind of gives a flavor, and then 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour.
Okay.
And I've tried this with the white whole wheat, and it doesn't thicken quite right, so you really do want just a regular all-purpose flour. And you can see here that I'm stirring it together and just kind of getting out some of the lumps and letting it sizzle a little bit. It's gonna cook out that raw flavor. You don't want to get that raw flavor from the flour.
Yeah.
And the reason I mix these spices ahead of time is because this next 2 steps are gonna go really fast and you don't wanna burn it. So I'm adding those spices with the chili powder and the cumin and the garlic, and I'm gonna mix that in with the flour and the avocado oil, and I'm just gonna get it all mixed together and let it until it starts fragrant. Can you smell that here?
Yeah.
Oh, it smells so
You're
good.
smelling that chili powder, and chili powder is actually a blend of different things. It has dried chilies, a little bit of garlic. It's a blended spice, and then we're going to add 4 cups, which guess what is exactly 1 box of chicken broth.
Perfect.
And you add just a little bit at a time, and as you stir it in, you're going to try and smooth out those lumps. I'm using this flat whisk, which gets right into the corners of your pan. I have linked in the recipe a flat whisk that I like because this is such an indispensable tool when you're doing things in a skillet or on the stove. It gets all the way to the edges. And we're just gonna gently add this chicken broth, and then we're gonna let it come up to a boil, and it's gonna slightly thicken.
Yep, as you let it reduce. So just when you look at it from a sense of I can buy something on a store shelf for $2-3 as opposed to this, what is the benefit of making it yourself?
This is going to taste 1,000 times better.
The taste is one.
And it's not that hard. It's simple ingredients. It's pretty much pantry staples. There's nothing really odd or fancy in here. As this comes to boil, I add that 1 teaspoon of vinegar, and
Just a tiny
bit, and it's just going to keep that chili powder from getting bitter, because that chili powder can get a little bit of a bitter at the back of your mouth, and the sugar and the vinegar kind of counteract it. And then as it cooks up, you're gonna wanna add some salt, but you need to taste it because chicken broths have different amounts of salt. I usually start with about 1/2 teaspoon, and then I stir it in, and then I taste it, and I see how it goes. So I have a little tasting spoon here, and I'm just gonna, it's not quite thick enough because it hasn't started to boil yet, but
My favorite part of the cook right there.
it doesn't sing. You have to wait until it sings,
Okay.
so you add more salt. So I'm gonna go with the full 2 teaspoons of sea salt. It usually takes about 1/2 teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, depending upon the brand of chicken broth that you have. And this is gonna come to a boil. It's gonna thicken slightly, and you're gonna end up with this sauce that just kind of barely coats the back of a spoon, and it is luscious and delicious. And then next week, I'm gonna show you how to turn it into my favorite chicken enchiladas.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
That is some of my favorite. And just the fact that you made it just sounds so impressive. If you have guests over to say that you did that,
And
That
look,
is spot
friends,
on.
how long does it take? 2
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah.
It's not hard at all. And this makes a double batch of enchiladas. It
Right.
makes 2 9x13, so you can put it into a jar and freeze it. Make sure if you freeze it in a jar, you leave an inch at the top because it will expand and you don't want to break your jar and then you lose your sauce. So make sure anytime you put it into a mason jar, you can give it an inch at the top before you freeze it, and then you can use half of it to make enchiladas, or do what I do, and you make a double batch, and then you have them all cooked up in the freezer ready for another day.
There we go.
Love that.
And
I
those
love these tips.
Frozen meals will come in very handy as we start talking about school again, that type of thing. And that's where the planner, that's where the cookbook, that's where all of at feedyourfamilytonight.com can come into hand. So thank you very much, Marie. Just one of many contributions here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Oh, and there's some new things coming up too at Feed Your Family Tonight. You've got to watch on social media to keep up with all of the stuff that Marie's going to be putting out here in the next couple months. Very exciting stuff. Again, you find her on Facebook, Instagram, listen to her podcast, and see her every Monday right here on Good Morning Cakeland.